relates to being able to come to school every day and then also being engaged while they are at school. So it'll be comprised today of Mrs. Yahola, who's one of our secondary education directors, Mr. Buell, who's the senior principal at 8th and 9th grade academy, Mrs. Pillars, who oversees and directs our federal programs, and then Mr. Freeman, who is a house principal at the high school. And so this is just a time, if you haven't gotten lunch, drinks that are there in the back, please make sure you've signed up. And then know that too, if you have a child or you're close to, a young person that maybe you're mentoring or foster care, we have side cohorts for a specific parent university course that's going to happen in the spring. So if you're affiliated with a school, know that information will be coming out in January, and so you are definitely welcome to join that, even if you don't have a child and you really feel led to help our youth, because this is community-based as we're working together to make sure our kids are successful. So definitely reach out with one of the schools, and I know that they will be most happy and appreciative of your interests. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the team.
Good afternoon. I am Donna Pillars, and I am the Federal Programs Director. So that's an interesting job, but pretty much what it means is the federal government gives us funding, and in order to keep the funding, we have to jump through all the right hoops. So my job is kind of to ensure as a district that we are doing the right thing. So we adopted first we wanted to say is we're committed to engaging all of our parents to be active participants in their students' education. Whoa! And how was that for you, Tim? There we go. Okay, I think that's going to fall. One of the hoops that we have to jump through is to ensure that we have parent engagement in all areas. So we have a parent engagement policy that we have to follow, and it's about 3 pages long, and I'm going to try to make it painless. But it is important that all of the parents and guardians understand that in order to receive this $3.6 million, we have to have the policy, because we want all of our parents involved, and it's extremely important. So we have the first part, and there's 8 general expectations that we have. I did not put it on the slide because it's kind of long and lengthy. It says that the district will put into operations programs and procedures shall be planned and operated with meaningful consultation with our parents. Pretty much what it means is we will give you this year, it is $3.6 million, but we have to have the involvement of all of our parents and guardians. I know we have a lot of grandparents as well. So we have a district policy, but then also we have site policies. So we have both of those. The second thing is, it says the district will involve parents and family members in jointly developing any plans. So we review our board policy every year, and then we have our parents involved in that process to see, is there anything we need to change? Is there anything that we want to do differently? I feel like as a district, I think we all feel this way, is we do a great job trying to involve our parents, and I hope that all of you understand it's extremely important for you to be involved, and we want you involved. I used to be a principal at BFSA, And sometimes I struggle to get the parents to understand their importance of please come, please be involved, let your child see this is important. And once our team was very creative, which I do have a parent that attended there, then parents started realizing, you know, this is important and she does want us there and the team wants you there. So please know that that is an open door and it's something we want at district level, state level. So the more you're involved, the better. So back to my policy. Number 3, it says that one of the stipulations is by accepting the federal money, I also, because I received $3.6 million, I have to set aside 1% of that money for parent engagement. So that is $36,000 at the district level, and we use that money for lots of different parent engagement. And I think I'm almost confident everyone in here has received our magazine that Dr. Mendenhall puts out, the Oklahoma Muskogee Way. So part of the money that we have, we pay for that to go out to all of our parents and community members. And then we also set aside money per site. So each site also receives roughly $3,600 for parent engagement. So that is another thing that we do with some of our monies. Next, it says that each school served under the policy will convene an annual meeting, offer a flexible number of meetings, involve parents in an organized, ongoing, and timely way in the planning, review, and improvement of including the plan. So each site in our district has to come up with a site plan stating how are we going to get parents involved? What will we do? That includes parent-teacher conferences. Some of our sites are doing student-led conferences. I think Sadler still works on their student-led portfolio conferences. So everyone is creative and has the option to be as creative as that site can be on getting our parents involved. We have parent engagement nights. I'm sure all of you have received flyers that your site is having a Title I parent engagement night, and that's a time when they review the site plan as well, and they will use some of their parent engagement money for that. We're almost through this. Next is number 7, we have to ensure effective involvement of parents and to support a partnership among the schools involved. By doing that, we provide assistance to parents and students served by the district. We provide materials and training to help parents understand their students' work and what will be necessary to help your child achieve. And I hope we're doing a really good job with that we're educating our parents along with the students, because that is our goal in accepting this money. Next, we have to ensure that information related to school parent programs, meetings, and activities are sent out in a format and language that everyone understands. So all of our documents we have in English and Spanish to ensure that everybody can read the material. It's very important. And if at any time you have difficulty understanding some of the language that's written in our policies, feel free to reach out to the district or your principals, and they could definitely help you. Because it's a lot of language, but it pretty much says, we want you involved. Please step forward and help us out. Next is part 2, which is our district-wide involvement, and it just says there's only 7 areas. The district will take the following actions to involve parents in joint development of its district-wide parental involvement plan. We'll have annual reviews. We'll evaluate, we'll have committee meetings, we have parent-teacher conference, and parent activities. Number 2, the district will take the following actions to ensure that 1% of the allocation of set-aside funds will be site allocated. And as I told you, each site gets $3,600, and then at the district level, $36,000. Next, number 3, the district will distribute the parent engagement policy, and that is available on our website, as well as we do send those out at the beginning of the year. And on the paperwork that you sign, that parent engagement policy is in there. Number 4, the district will adhere to the parent engagement policy and ensure involvement through flexible and timely parent meetings. Are any of you involved in the Title I site plan meetings? Each site does have that, and they do have a committee meeting. Number 5, the district will jointly develop and distribute school-wide parent compacts. And everyone should receive this, and it's a compact stating, this is what the teacher's gonna do, this is what the student agrees to do, and this is what the parent agrees to do. And that is reevaluated every year with our Title I teams. Number 6, the district will ensure effective involvement of parents and support a partnership with the community and to improve student academics. And we send out parent surveys, and all of you should have received those annual, and then we review the district plan and the site plans, and we do that throughout the summer. And the last but not least is, how do we push all this out to you? It's available on the website. We also have our Facebook. And then a lot of you should have Classroom Dojo. Can you raise your hand if you have any, what form of communication? Is it Classroom Dojo? Yeah. Good. That's a really good program, and you can reach a lot of people with just one text. I used it when I was at BFSA. And also, we can keep that communication. We can print it out when we need it, or whoever may need that. So that's the hard part. I got through the policy, which is always a little boring, I do realize, but I want you to know that we do have guidelines that we have to have in order to get all the federal funding. I don't know if everyone's aware of what we do with our federal funding, but it's helping employ a lot of people. One of the newest things that we've added are the interventionists at each of our elementary sites. We have 2 in each building, and it's making a huge difference on the reading levels of our students. So we're really excited to have that addition this year, and we feel like it's making a huge difference. Now, back to today's focus, is student attendance. Why is it important? These are the questions that we're going to answer. Why is it important, and how does attendance affect your students' education? Hopefully we'll be able to answer that. Attendance is important because it's a state law. You are mandated to send your child to school from the ages of 5 to 18. And if a parent or guardian or custodian fails to enroll or bring their child to school, they will be guilty of a misdemeanor. Pre-K is not mandatory, but we kind of hear that may be coming on the horizons. So at our pre-K center, we really try to work with parents to get them, if you can start at the age of 4, by the time they get in kindergarten, it's really going to make a big difference. States want their residents to have at least a basic education, and under state compulsory education laws, children are required 5 to 18. Next one. Each day the child remains out of school after the verbal document or written warning was given to the parent it is a separate offense. So you could have two offenses going at once. So please know this is state law and we have to abide by that, but also it is a district initiative that we are going to work to improve our attendance. A student is, this is the law, a student is considered chronically absent after missing 10% or more of school days. 10% of school days would be 18 days in a normal school year. That's a lot of school to miss. Please get your child to school. It's so important. And it's hard on the children when they have to come back after missing 2 or 3 days, and they've missed a lot of fun stuff.
Is there an exception to that? Is there out for medical reasons or anything like that?
Yes. And we do have a medical exemption committee that we run, that we work on that. The attendance policy, and this is our Muskogee attendance policy, students are expected to be in classes on time each day of the school year. When students miss school, the parent or guardian is responsible for notifying the school's attendance office regarding the absence. This notification must be communicated by phone or written note and dated and signed by the parent or the guardian. If notification is not made the date of the absence, it should be received by the school immediately following the absence, not 5 or 10 days down the road. If communication regarding the reason for an absence is not made, the absence may be considered a truancy, and parent contact is not a legal excuse for an absence. The school, this continues to be the elementary, the school will notify parents in writing upon the 4th absence without a valid excuse. If within 5 days after a warning has been issued, the parent or guardian or custodian of such child does not comply with the provisions of attendance, then an attendance officer shall make a complaint against the parent, guardian, or custodian in a court of competent jurisdiction or an attendance violation. If a child is absent without a valid excuse for 4 or more days, or parts of a day within a 4-week period, or is absent without an excuse for 10 or more days within a semester, the attendance officer shall notify the parent and immediately report such absences to the district attorney's office. Okay, next is secondary schools, and absence in the secondary level is defined as being more than 15 minutes late to any class or not being present for an assigned class. And when students miss school, parents are responsible for notifying the school's attendance officer or office regarding the reason. The absence limit is 18 weeks per semester for, let me review that. The absence limit per semester for students in grades 9 through 12 is 9 days per semester. So in our semesters, they have 9 days to be absent. So, do you guys have any questions before we continue on about our attendance policy? Anything that doesn't seem clear? Oh, go ahead.
When they have a doctor's appointment and you bring a note back that they've been at the doctor, why is it still showing up like part of an absence?
Why does it still?
Shows up, if I go online, look at the attendance, it shows up that way.
I think it's still going to show, but it'll have a different code.
But it should be,
Yeah, it should be coded Dr. Legal.
But they were still absent. So even if they're gone, even if they go to the doctor and they have a doctor's note, they still missed that instruction for that day. So that counts as one of their 9. So if they go beyond that 9, unless they have a medical exemption, then they're considered chronically absent because they're missing more than 10% of the school year.
Okay, I understand that part, but the part I don't understand is that doctor's offices are open Monday through Fridays. So I make an appointment for 8 o'clock in the morning to get her there. But yet, she has a lot of doctor's appointments.
Right.
I don't have any control.
Well, one of the things that we're trying to work with our parents is a lot of the parents will take them out for a doctor's appointment, but then they don't return. So you go to the appointment and you come back immediately afterwards really helps in that. And I know sometimes you go to the doctor, it takes 2 or 3 hours. You never know, but so that is one thing that we're trying to work with. And our doctors locally are well aware that we are really trying to push the importance of attendance. So it would be my hope that some of the doctor's offices would, open for extended hours eventually, or that you could schedule the appointments if at all possible during the holidays. And I know it's not always possible. We do understand that.
And ma'am, I'll add this, it's a frustration that we feel as well. I will say that this year taking on attendance as a central focus, we have had students before where they've had their braces tightened and not come back. That's really evaporated this year. We have students coming back, but the reason it still counts as an absence is because the state tells us it is. Doctor legal and court dates no longer are excused by the state of education.
But those absences will not accrue as it relates to you getting a citation. And so it's only really for our state reporting that they still count Dr. Legals and going to court against the school. So once you turn in your doctor's note, it should not count as one of the 9 as far as her or your student failing or getting a citation, if that makes sense. So once it's coded from a truancy or absence to Dr. Legal, it counts really for the school and our chronic absenteeism still, but it should not count towards you getting a citation. Hopefully that makes sense.
Ryan, are you up next?
Ms. McKee, did you have a question?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, secondary, that junior high school as well, or they sitting on this? Okay.
Yes, secondary, 6 through 12.
16.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, if there's no questions, is it you? Oh, Ryan.
Good morning. I've worked in schools too long, I don't need that. My name is Ryan Buell, principal of the 8th and 9th grade academy at Alice Robertson. I want to thank Dr. McIntosh for inviting me and letting me be here. This summer really dug into the why. Knew we were going to push into attendance, and so wanted to find some things that were really specific. Why is it important to come to school? 9th grade students, nearly 90% of 9th grade students who miss less than a week of school per semester graduate. And all this data is from the University of Chicago Consortium. 9th grade students who miss more than 2 weeks of school flunk, on average, 2 classes. And by the 9th grade, so I do 8th grade too, and I know elementary with Dr. McIntosh, by the time they get to the 9th grade, their chances of graduating from high school decrease by 20 percentage points for every week of school they miss. It accrues. And so we have this plastered all over AR. Parents are probably tired of me talking about these stats, but there really is a strong correlation. Those that attend, even if they maybe struggle with some of the content, they are more successful than those that simply do not come to school.
To add to that, does anyone know, well at least it was when I was in the classroom full time, does anyone know what grade students drop out the most?
Yes.
I got 10th, anybody else? I got 9th. When I was teaching, I think it still is the case, 9th grade. I thought it was 11th or 12th or something like that. 9th grade was the grade that most students dropped out. And you can probably look at their attendance previously to the ninth grade and that year and see that there's a strong correlation to that statistic.
You want to talk about this one real quick? And then mine's after this.
Okay.
And it makes sense if they get past the ninth grade. I mean, they have enough credits to be a junior or a senior. The line's there. I mean, it's right. And they have opportunities for concurrent and vocational education.
So, when you look on Zillow or one of those websites, they always have a link for you to check out the school in the district that you're going to. Have y'all ever looked at those? And when people are thinking about moving to Muskogee, these are some of the statistics or data that they may see. When you do not show up for school, it affects your academics. Does everybody agree with that statement? If you're not in class and you missed when I talked about graphing a line, one of my former students right there might remember that. It affects, because not only did you miss the explanation, but now you're behind, and so we got to take some time to help get you caught up. And most of our students in our district ride the bus. And so there's not a chance after school really, or before school, unless they get there super early. So these are some of the scores that people see when they click on our website, and they'll say, well, the gray here, these arrows here is the state average. The green is our performance. So what do you notice about what you see here? Talk to me. What does our performance look like as it compares to the state average? Now, I will be honest, there are plenty of factors that are involved, not just attendance. There's a lot of things that we can be doing to help service our students as a community and as a school. Attendance is probably the top of the list though. Attendance is affecting our reading scores, and there's all kinds of data out there that says if you don't know how to read, the kind of life that you're going to have, most likely you're going to end up where? Somebody said it. In prison. A lot of our inmates are illiterate. If you're not at school, how can you learn how to read? Now, it used to be, way back in the day before my time, even though I am getting older now, that people would teach their kids a little bit how to read at home. A little bit. They started out reading the Bible maybe, and they came to school with some knowledge. It's not necessarily the case anymore. Most of the education that is happening to our children are happening at school. You learn how to read, you learn how to do math, learn how to do everything pretty much at school. I've even heard a parent say, listen, I have them at home at night and I feed them. When I send them to school, that's your job, teaching them. Anyway, we have reading on this side and we have math on this side. And these are actual data points of what happens when our students are not showing up to school. Attendance is almost at epidemic levels. And I have to be honest, it's not just for Muskogee High School or Muskogee 8th and 9th grade or any of our elementary schools. It's not just Muskogee, period. Especially COVID, once COVID hit, attendance really started dropping down everywhere, not just in Oklahoma, even across the country. It's been a real issue that a lot of people are fighting, is trying to get people to come to school. So I just wanted to see some of the statistics or data that's out there for what happens when our students do not come to school. And when people are thinking about moving into our district, these are some of the numbers that they're faced with. They're saying, they see that score for the school, and if you dig in a little bit, you'll start seeing where these numbers come from.
I want to go backwards. I'm Lisa Effola. I'm the Director of Secondary Instruction for Muskogee Public Schools. I'm also over Indian Education, but I want to go backwards just a little bit. We shared the elementary policy and the secondary policy because we wanted you to see that those expectations are exactly the same. Babies in kindergarten have the exact same attendance expectations as seniors in high school because it's important every single year for the kids to be at school, and the state law doesn't change regardless of age. One of the things that we are seeing at our ECC, which is our Early Childhood Center, because pre-K is not a requirement by the state, it's very easy for parents or guardians to say, well, it's just pre-K. They don't have to habit, so they don't have to go. Well, in pre-K with what Mr. Freeman just shared, where students kind of learned letters and colors and shapes at home before, and they're not learning that now, pre-K is where they learn that. They also learn how to do school, how to sit still, how to raise your hand, how to go to the restroom in a line with a group, how to wait, how to play with other kids. And so when they're absent from pre-K and they're learning how to do school during pre-K, and they're allowed to stay home because they just don't want to go, or I don't want to have to get up and take my kid this morning because it's cold outside or it's raining or whatever, then when they move on to kindergarten, you've already set that pattern for them. You've already made that habit for them. So it's very difficult for them to get back into a new habit after it's been okay that it's just pre-K, so we're not going to go. Now, before we move on to the next few slides, I want you to stop just a moment, and I want you to think about all the people that you know in Muskogee who have students or children or grandchildren, nieces, nephews, that go to Muskogee Public Schools. And what sites are those children attending? Because I'm going to bring up some chronic absenteeism numbers, which means that the students have missed more than 9 days each semester or more than 18 days in a full school year for each individual school site. So I want you to think about who you know or who you might know that's at that site. So this is for Cherokee. This information, this data came off of the State Department's website for our 2022-2023 school year. So if you will notice, they have this broken down by economically disadvantaged students, Black students, Hispanic students. 2 or more means that with ethnicity, the students have selected that they belong to 2 or more races. White students and students with disabilities, which would be our students who have physical disabilities or intellectual disabilities that they're on an IEP or an individualized education plan. And then at the bottom, I have the overall chronic attendance. So if you look at each of those subgroups, you see that for overall Cherokee, 20.88, which is almost 21% of the student body at Cherokee between kindergarten and 5th grade missed more than 18 days in the school year last school year.
That's first on the missing the days. Are you talking about complete day, half day, combination days? Equal day,
I'm gonna let the principal answer that one.
That is another, so that, the state has a formula for that. So that does count half days, it does do that. We have tried to get the formula from the state. We have been unsuccessful so far, but they do, if you come in at 10 o'clock, it does not count as a full day, it counts as a half day.
And so, and just as Mr. Buman said, each district is allocated for, on the state report card, we're given a total of 10 points total. And so with all of the anomalies, I know even with COVID and, even now kids are getting COVID, there are certain functions that we code, like as far as medical, as far as, various different things that are extenuating circumstances, but discipline, like absolute suspension, all of those things, they count against the school side. So with that 10 points, what we are all charged with doing this year specifically is figuring out what our goals are in relationship to get the maximum number of points to combat all of the various different things. But like you said, we don't have the formula that says, 150 equal, 6 points or what have you. But that's what the increasing challenge is. My really even guess with it, I submitted for Cherokee because what year was this?
Last year.
Last year, so I was okay. So I was in Cherokee last year, and what I can honestly say is we had filed a, I guess they call it a reassessment where they can kind of look at, because we had significantly, the students who served Cherokee were significantly higher to get COVID, various different illnesses, and for how long period of time.
And so even when they came back on that with the study, a lot of the absences, even though they were coded correctly and were for, absences, those absences still accrued and that counted within those 10 points. So
This is also where the conversation earlier about the doctor's notes, this is where it counts. It still counts. When the state looks at our absences, this is where it counts. And so that is factored into. So if you got COVID and you were out, or you were sick, or you broke a leg or something, you missed a certain amount of days, unless we were able to get that medical exemption, that's the only other option, and that's what he was saying, that he could actually file to see if we can get some of those absences taken off per this issue or per that issue. And that's a state decision once it goes out of our hands.
We do file for those for some students who have medical issues for them to be medically exempt from this. So those would be students who are chronically ill and are in the hospital quite often, or that they just are, have to stay home. Maybe their immune systems are low, are not functioning well. So we do file for those. So this is not including those students who were approved for medical exemption. Okay, moving on, we have Creek Elementary. So the overall for Creek is a little bit lower than Cherokee, but it's still pretty significant that 16.8% of their students missed more than 18 days in a school year. And that would be, that could be 18 days in December or November and December where they were just really sick, or 18 days in August. They don't take the absences and average them out by month. It's just a total number. And if you noticed, if you were looking at our subgroups, this subgroup does not have, on the subgroups here, this one does not have English language learners or American Indian students. And that's because the population of those two subgroups at some school sites are insignificant because they're so low. So that's why they were left off of some of these slides. So this one has both English learners and American Indians. At Irving's overall is 30%. 30% of those students are not coming to school, are missing school 18 days or more in the school year. And one thing I thought was interesting about this data is that Irving is our school site that houses most of our Hispanic students. And they were they were the lowest students that missed school. That's our highest population of any subgroup there, or the highest population of Hispanic students is at Irving, and they have the lowest. However, they're still pretty high. This is Pershing Elementary. Pershing's overall rate is a 23%. That's almost a quarter of the students are chronically absent. And when we're talking about chronic absences, some of them are just at their 19th day, but some of them may have 27, 34, 50 days absent between August and May. We only have 180, and if they miss 50 days, I mean, that's extremely significant, and that's a lot of instructional time that they're missing out on.
So Pharaoh thinks that if most of this behavior, if they get that counted as well, behavior.
If you're out of school suspended, it does count. However, we have ISS, which is in-school suspension. We have REAP, which is it's a change of placement from their building to the alternative school building. So those do not count. Students who are in REAP do not count as an out-of-school suspension. Those would only be the students who are sent home for disciplinary action.
So then, I'm saying the in-school suspension is good of attendance.
Correct. They're still in school, so it still counts.
And I don't want to jump ahead too quick, but one thing that we've done this year is We have drastically reduced the days of out of school. And also, it used to be there was a minimum 3 day, if they were headed to REAP, there was a minimum 3 day out of school suspension. That has been eliminated. They go to REAP now the next day. And so that's one thing that we've looked at because they are being served just in a different place.
Okay, that's good.
Ma'am, did you have a question?
I did, I'm trying to figure out how to frame it. So at the elementary level, the guidance and the thought process on out-of-school suspension, I do have a first grade. He spent 2 years in kindergarten because that first year was COVID. And then missed a lot of days due to COVID, being sent home. But then in the second year, there was a couple of times that he was suspended. I understand Muskogee Public Schools have a warning talk at the level that they do things, but isn't it more important to keep the student in the environment of education? Because I was told they did not have an in-school suspension teacher last year.
What site was this?
Correct. They were very low staffed and they didn't have.
They may not have.
This year even, which we are getting an IEP this year, so some of that behavioral stuff that we don't leave him alone, he has like, he's very impulsive, and needs, some supervision. And due to lack of that is why he was having behavioral issues. And so this year we've done really well with the 504 and the therapy and all that things happening, so they're not just sitting in the home.
Well, and remember that, as Mr. Buell said earlier, that this year that has become our focus because we have looked at the school report cards for the last 2 years and realized that we, not in the 2023 school year, but in the 2022 school year, we only had 1 or 2 schools that received any points at all on chronic absenteeism. There's 10 points possible. Every other school site received 0 points. So that then became a huge focus for us because we realized that if kids are not in school, they're not going to learn. And so that has become our focus this year. So we really are making a bigger, more concerted effort to keep students in the school during the school day.
Because my son, he is going to, he wants to go stay with his aunt and uncle.
Yeah,
He wants to go stay at McCready,
yeah.
And just to be clear too, Ms. Frank, what were you gonna say? Oh, I was just gonna say that we've also, over the past couple of years, have reviewed and redone our discipline matrix. When I first became assistant principal, if you got into a fight, for example, you got sent home for 20 days. That's a month of school. And so that's no longer the case. That has been dwindled down to 3 or 5 or something to that effect. I can't remember the number off the top of my head.
And all administrators, Mr. Holder led us through that. We went through over the summer before school started, knowing that attendance, and we were all charged as principals with goals for the school in relationship to attendance, was looking at a lot of it was discipline. And so restructuring, putting those things in place, and then the additional supports we have, such as the counseling, like I said, in-school intervention. I know it's 6th and 7th grade, that help with those that are receiving special education services. We've had to modify their day, provide different ways to keep them at school. Yes, in part, it is going to be best for them to be at school, but then certain behaviors warrant them, we're left with no choice. But even within that, we're looking at ways to get them back in school as quickly as possible. But and that's just, it's ongoing. I think a lot of the times too, what I will say, here is we think a lot of some of the issues that kids will bring home and what they indicate, the school sites want to know. And so if there's an issue that's happening that a school might not know, or as a counselor might not know, a teacher or a principal, definitely connect with the schools. Your schools are your resources. They want your input. They want to know, because that's what we are all charged with, is to make sure that we're responsive to that. There is ways to do that. It's not the thing of just, calling or coming up or what have you, but
being engaged and making sure that as soon as something happens, that you know, because we don't want it to be where a child is acting being bullied, for example, they come to school, they fight, and do all these other different things, now they've got consequences, and the school was unaware of any issues prior to what happened. So, and there's not always, you know, there may be a difference in opinion of how things are, you know, handled and all of that, but the thing is, one of the main things we see is that oftentimes the school is unaware until an issue or behavior just is articulated in a way that's inappropriate for the learning environment, and then we find ourselves not only messing up attendance, but then there's disciplinary action as well.
I just, circling back to what she said about, you know, getting your kids ready in pre-K and setting that good foundation of,
Yes.
you know, school is important, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna go, and then, you know, you kind of send them, especially when they're that young, you send them a mixed message when you're like, oh, you have to go in a fight, well, you're gonna have to be out for, in kindergarten, you know, to be suspended for gang-related activity because he got in a little scuffle on a walking trail I was shocked.
And that is a conversation that we have with our principals from the district level, is that we want them to exhaust or maybe look at every avenue of what they could do for alternative forms of discipline as opposed to just sending a student home. So a lot of times that option is after they have looked at other things. So we are having those conversations with them.
Because it's very hard for me to discipline a child for something that happened in the first hour of school at 6 o'clock in the evening. And so, I mean, each school site is different, but keeping it, like, I remember saying it for recess.
Well, and we do have behavioral interventionists at each school site now as well, that they can remove the child from the classroom and do some self-regulation techniques with them to help bring them down, so that is not just the automatic option. Okay, you're going home because you can't behave. So we are looking at all of those things and trying to put supports in place to keep students from just automatically going home. This one is Tony Getz. They're at a 21%. Sadler Arts Academy is less than 1%.
Now, my question is, why y'all think this? How do we get this and every other school got at least 20%? What is that talking about?
Are you asking me or the audience?
I'm asking whoever is there. That's crucial. Every school should be doing that.
Exactly. Like, what are they doing in Sadler that we're not doing at all of our other stuff?
Well, what I'll say to that is, I think too, you know, when you look at as a whole, the level of investment, it's gotta be, it's, a lot of it is in mindset, yes, but it's also too, when you look at Sadler, is a bit of an anomaly in the aspect that the processes and procedures that are in place even for you to, you know, to go through the application process, all of that, there's
Yeah,
a certain
it's a choice.
That's a choice. And then that's, if you don't meet, you know what I mean, those specific, you know, requirements within that manual, and, you know. But then the other element I want to put this too, is a shared sense of ownership, because in the home, the image has to be for every family, whether you go to Sadler, 6 or 7, Cherokee, wherever, it's gotta be that you are at school no matter what.
I agree with Dr. McIntosh. It is a choice for those students make to go through that application process, or those parents make to apply for that. And so it kind of feels like for those students, or it is a privilege to be able to attend that magnet school. And they do have the option of kicking them out, I guess, I mean, revoking their membership,
Revoke the status.
revoking the status of the magnet school. And so that's one of the agreements that the students make when they fill out that application, is that you will maintain a high attendance, or you will go back to your homeschool site.
And being honest with you, Ms. Tracy, one of the things I know that I see is, like, it's seen as, you know, we build on whether it's someone with the disciplinary issues, things like that, and they can regress to where, you know, rather than the parents being on our sides and families and different things that say, you know, I need you at school, you know, we're working together in this, it's often becomes a roadblock where, you know, I'm just not gonna, you know, fly dogs, I'm not gonna, we're gonna go online, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. That mindset for us has to shift as a whole, as a community, that, you know, our doctor's appointments, you know, various different things, and all of those could be, whether it's we talk about access to healthcare, we talk about Medicaid, all these various different things that work sometimes as a barrier, but that mindset has to shift, and I know that it can, because that's looking directly at attendance, but like when you and I talked the other day about the achievement piece, like Cherokee gained 15 points, and that's, I think it's far back before I got here, of improvement in the student achievement area. So there is improvements happening. I think too, with us narrowing our focus to attendance now as a district, we'll see a lot of those high percentages are going to be lessened when this next round of report cards come out. I know Mr. Buell and I, we're in court. We're seen as the police for attendance, because it's just that important, but it affects every element. You know, like I said, if you're not in school, how are you going to be able to continue to read at a level that is, you know, for your grade level and everything else? How are you going to be able to do your math, you know what I mean, to be able to go to the rigor of state? And then with bills, because academically, if I can't keep up and I get to like 9th grade, by that time it's make or break. Because if I'm not getting academics and I'm not really wanting to, you know, I'm not really gonna act out so I can get put out. You know what I'm saying? And it becomes where that intrinsic motivation, if it's not there and they have not experienced success up until that point, it's highly, you know, research has shown it's highly unlikely that they're gonna, you know, continue to just want to be at school and finish through high school.
Okay, this one is the 6th and 7th grade academy. Their chronic absenteeism last year was 46%. That's almost half of their students missed 18 days or more at the 6th and 7th grade academy. Now, I know this year they're focusing on not as many out-of-school suspensions and things like that, but also as Mr. Freeman noted, 9th grade is a huge area where students start dropping out of school. 6th and 7th grade is where they start. We start losing students at 6th and 7th grade. The expectations for the work, the rigor of the work starts getting harder because it's considered a secondary school, and so the 6th grade teachers feel like they aren't babies anymore, so they don't spoon feed them as much. And so it does become a little bit harder. We have done some things to combat this. At the 6th and 7th grade academy this year, we have started a Reading 101 class where we took students who scored below basic or basic on their fifth grade reading assessment for the state and put them in an additional reading class where we looked at their phonics skills, phonemic awareness, and started teaching them the basics of what they typically do in 1st grade and building their skills from there. Dr. McIntosh, how many students have we graduated out of that program?
So it was 20 as of last week, and so we have, I signed off on an additional 7, just in my office the other day. So I think we're sitting at a little less than 30, and so we have some that within even by the next time that we come back, when we come back after winter break, we'll be able to have at least 12 to 15 that are right on the cusp. And so you're talking about as Ms. Yehola said, it was all strategically placed. And you're talking about taking achievers from a 1.9 grade point average, I think was the lowest that we had. So you're talking about going into sixth grade, 5 years behind grade level.
1.9 means that they're reading on a first grade 9th month level.
And reaching sixth grade, some that are on fourth or fifth, they might even reach seventh, but they will provide an intensive reading intervention. So that's one of the main measures to help mitigate, because again, a lot of these young people during the midst of COVID, they're one of the most critical reading years they didn't have.
And, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm glad that they put that intervention in there, because it's not the students' fault. COVID hit, and
Right.
they got, and everything went down. So, in my mind, we should have shifted back to where we were. Everybody up at this point, but we went this way. So now we're paying. So I'm glad to see the reading intervention, because our kids are suffering because they didn't get it. You know, a lot of stuff they don't even know, because they haven't even been acquainted with it.
Well, and honestly, once they get to the 6th grade level and they've taken that 5th grade assessment, our students were low in reading and math always, even before COVID hit. And so on our state assessments, we were scoring, 27% proficient, which means that only 27% of the students in 5th grade were reading on a 5th grade level by the time they left 5th grade. And so that also went into the decision, because we were always low, but then COVID also, which is bringing that down too. So lots of things went into that decision. Yeah, I think that Dr. McIntosh has really been focusing on student attendance this year and getting those students present. So when you see this 45.65% of chronically absent students at the 6th and 7th grade level, once you get to the 8th and 9th grade level, again, that's a habit that those students have placed in their lives, or their lifestyle. They have, let's just go to school 3 days a week instead of 5. I don't want to go on Monday because it's Monday. I don't want to go on Friday, so let's be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Mr. Buell has been working on attendance incentives for a while, not as much as a concerted effort as what he's doing this year, but he's also combating those bad habits from 6th and 7th grade as well when those kids get to 8th grade. And then 9th grade, like you said, like they said before, the 9th grade is when credits start counting, and that's going towards graduation. And after that first semester of 9th grade, where they've missed so much instruction, the content is harder at 9th grade because it's high school, it starts counting. The standards are more rigorous, and then students fail 3 of their 4 core classes, and that's very easy for them to then give up. So we, at the 8th and 9th grade academy, have been starting, for the last 2 years, they started a credit recovery section for the 2nd semester, where those students are able to immediately go into a credit recovery class to try to make up those credits in their 9th grade year before they actually move to the high school, so that they don't start 10th grade or start the high school already missing credits. Do you have anything else you'd like to say to that?
No.
Okay. Andre, do you want to do the high schools, or do you want me to go ahead and keep going? Okay. The high schools then again is 33%, so it's also going back down, but it's the same kind of thing. We're still combating those bad habits that students started in elementary school, became worse in 6th and 7th grade, and they're starting to try to get better about those. But if we are not, as adults, if we are not concerned about the students showing up to school, they're clearly not going to be concerned about that either. So at the beginning of these slides, when I asked you to think about all of the students in town, or all of the people in town that you know that have children or grandchildren in any of these sites, I want you to take this information back to those people. We wanted to start a citywide campaign, which is harder to do than you think, So Dr. Mendenhall had several billboards around town that that they got for the full school year that say, "We want you in school, we need you in school." But that doesn't do as much as if you as parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles would do with those students and letting them know how important it is that they are there in school every single day. Reading is taught every single day. In K through 5, the reading block is in the morning from like 9 to 10:30 or 9:30 to 11, depending on their lunch. They have to be there every day. That's when small groups are pulled and they work on individual skills. So they need to be there. And once they get to 6th and 7th grade, they have 7 classes they have to keep up with. If they get behind in the first and second hours, they still have those 5 to contend with, but then they're trying to play catch up with those first and second hours. So it's extremely important that we pass on this message of getting your kids to school every single day. It's on to you guys.
Yeah, so I think, all the data that you saw was data from last year. So as a result of that, what are we doing? And I'm not gonna read everything, but these are honestly just some of the things that we are doing. The biggest one is probably the last one. All of them kind of lead to that. Why are the kids missing the school? We have provided transportation. We have, worked with parents on figuring, instead of just blindly slapping on a penalty, as Dr. McIntosh said, yes, we are at court every Wednesday. We don't want to be at court. So before we get to that citation, before we get to that point where we're in front of the judge, these are all things that we have done. We have that attendance intervention team that meets every week, talks to students, provides services. We've given alarm clocks, anything. We've worked with DHS, conducted home visits. And so I think these are things that will help when we're standing here a year from now comparing the data you just saw to our data, to our this year, the 23-24 school year data, and hopefully we do see significant gains.
So these are some of the ideas, and I'm pretty sure we can fill up the rest of our time with ideas, which are great, to help provide opportunities or ideas to get people to school on time. I remember, I don't know if y'all heard the comedian Chris Rock. He said when he was a kid that his parents, their motto was put some Robitussin on it. Whatever it is that happened in life, you going to school, and how we going to fix it, put some Robitussin on it. He said, you broke your leg, Robitussin. Robitussin was the thing that fixed everything. And so that mentality, of course, if you have a broken leg, you may not be able to come to school or something. But the idea is that there was a time that people used to come to school no matter what. There was a time that people came to school. Sometimes you have to send them home. You're sick, go home. It seems to be reversed. So here's some ideas. Set a regular bedtime and schedule. And that includes getting prepared the night before. And so one thing I had to do is because Dr. McIntosh is so fly every day, I want to make sure that I look decent as well. And so I press my shirts, I got the starch, and I do all that stuff. But if I'm doing that all in the morning, I'm going to be late for work. So at night, I have to set all that stuff out and get it ready at night. Set up homework and bedtime routines. This is a little big one, especially with these little things here. Y'all got one of these? These are, and by the way, we need to stop blaming kids. Parents are just as bad. Whenever you go to a teacher meeting, if you stand in the back, you see everybody's phone lit up, because all the teachers are big hypocrites, but you ain't hear that from me. I'm including myself in that. Anyway, turn off the cell phones. Take them. You the parent, take those cell phones, because I promise you, as soon as you leave out that room, when they see that light turn off underneath the door or whatever, they pull them right back out. And them kids come in looking like they just got off of work. And I say, what happened? Man, I didn't go to bed till 3 o'clock, playing games or doing whatever else on their phones. Lights out, cell phones, games, and computers off. Try not to schedule medical and dental appointments during the day. And I know that's a challenge. I understand that that's a challenge. And you're right, doctor's offices are not open on the weekends unless you go to one of those urgent cares or something like that. And so the idea is, if possible, so I rescheduled a doctor's visit, a dental appointment, to the first one that they had in the morning. And that actually helped me because school didn't start till 8:30. So I was able to get to school on time still. I missed my duty in the morning, but I didn't miss any of the school day. If possible, rearrange your doctor's or dental schedules or to a break. Maybe we can push it back to Thanksgiving break or Christmas break or spring break, or fall break if possible. And bring a doctor's note. That helps us. Now, technically, I heard someone say you get about, or as soon as you can. Our handbook at the high school, and I believe it might be at AR, is 3 days. You get 3 days from the time that you return back from being sick to turn in a doctor's note. And so get that in as soon as possible. Now, you know your kids. You know what they'll do. It'll be in their bag or it'll be in their purse, and what will they do with that doctor's note? They just hold it. Do they turn it in? No, it's sitting there wrinkled for a couple of days. So you might call us and say, hey, check Johnny's bag. He has a doctor's note in there, or bring it up to us yourself. And we really don't, especially with COVID and what we had with that, if you're really sick, we're not saying come to school if you are truly sick. But what we are encountering is, Mama, I don't want to go to school, I'm sick. That's what we're encountering, not all the time, but many times. It's not, I used to go to school, my parents would send me to school, feel like I'm about to die sometimes. You know, times it's changed, and that's another level. I'm finding more, I don't know if you see this, Mr. Beal, but I'm finding more that parents are allowing their student, their child, to make the decision if they're going to school, if they're coming to school, or what school they're going to go to. Which, if I had a chance to make the decision, well, I'll take it back. It was girls in school, so I'm going to school. Anyway, also set the standard. You do know that you are the biggest example for your children. We are the biggest example. And so, if you allow absences, like I heard someone previously say, they're going to say that the school is not important by your actions. You can say go to school and it's important all you want to, but your actions will prove if that's the case or not. Now, we already had some questions. I actually had it set up for questions at the end, but you guys were so attentive, and so we really appreciate all the questions. But if there aren't any more questions, these are some sayings and slogans I found online of things that people can say or maybe post around that encourages people to come to school. I like grades go down when you're not around. These are just little statements and stuff that I found out. It is absolutely 1000% important that people come to school, your students come to school as much as possible. Let me also say that attendance is not the only reason that our data numbers as far as our academics were as low. We can do a better job, and it's ongoing, to make school an actual fun place to come. If people want to come, they're more likely to come. I don't want to ignore that and gloss over that fact, but it is absolutely imperative until we get to that utopian society where every student would love to come to school every day, and they come in with their paper and pencil, and I don't know if anybody would eat an apple nowadays if somebody brought it, but the idea would be we need to continue working to get better, and your help will be absolutely beneficial. I believe that is it for our presentation. Do you guys have any questions for us?
I want to say good presentation. It was very good.
Thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoy your Chick-fil-A, and have a great rest of your day. Doc?
Thank you everyone for coming. Just remember that if you have